All right, so this is what? Lesson 1.3 and subtracting integers. Really, a foundation to subtracting in algebra is this concept. Subtraction is the exact same thing as adding the opposite. So take your blue there and write adding in there. Subtraction is the same thing as adding the opposite. It's the exact same thing. So let me go through a little progression here. You wouldn't want to do this, but you could. But again, a simplistic problem like this, it is really no different than this. Take my blue and put a blue plus sign. Whoa, my pen will do that occasionally. And I'm just writing the original, but instead I'm putting a plus sign in between the two numbers. It's exactly the same thing. So way back in second grade when you were doing 10 minus 3 and you got 7, if you were thinking algebraically, it'd be the same as 10 plus negative 3. And the answer is still 7. Now, you wouldn't do this. Why go through the extra time to write this when we all know since second grade, maybe first, maybe some of you even before you got into pre-kindergarten, you knew that 10 minus 3 was 7. All right, we know that. It's not really for that kind of a problem, but we could. It's the exact same thing. Subtraction is adding the opposite. It's in this situation where students get in trouble. Again, 7 subtract 12 is not the way you want to think of it. You want to go through, I'm going to go ahead and write the problem with, again, a plus sign in between. Now, again, we've talked about this already, but that is the idea. So let me go through it in words. So it says subtraction is adding the opposite. We've got a 7, and we're supposed to add the opposite of 12. What's the opposite of 12? What's the opposite of 12? Negative 12. So that negative sign is the exact same thing. I'm going to take my red here. I'm going to circle this negative sign, and I'm going to write it in. 7, and then add the opposite. And I'll use the word of as well. And add the opposite of. That's the idea. Do we need to do that? No, we just need to be aware of it. That's all I want you to do is be aware of it, that that's the same thing. That's what I'm looking for, that you're aware that a 7 minus 12 is exactly the same thing as 7 plus a negative 12. And you did that with your homework last night, or at least you should have. So you treated that as 7 positives and 12 negatives. You should have taken all the smaller one, all the 7 positives. Take the same amount of the 12 negatives, add to it. That's opposite numbers at 0, and figure out how many negatives you had left, and the answer should have been 5, and you are rolling on. So in this problem, again, this is 8 negatives and 4 more negatives. We understand that. But the point of right now is that if you want to, sneeze coming, excuse me, if you want to, you can think of the subtraction sign, that negative sign, as adding the opposite. What is the opposite of the 4 and negative 4? Not a big deal. Here's the more practical aspect of it. What I try to get you guys to do is keep the sign with the number. If you'll just keep the sign with the number, really don't even think about subtraction because it'll just mess you up. Just think about the sign with the number. So when you look at this original, right, I'm thinking right here, right? When you look at this original, when you look at this thing right here, oh, right here, happened to my magic pen, it's not being magic. Right here, there we go, 3 times the charm. When you look right there, hopefully your brain is saying, I'm going to keep the sign with the number. So 8 negatives and 4 more negatives. I have 8 negatives, I have 4 negatives, total 12 negatives. Negative 12 is the answer. And onward you go. But subtraction does mean opposite or adding the opposite. Okay, so then you end up with this rule. Don't let letters confuse you. A lot of people will say something like this: I was doing great with numbers, but when math got to those letters, it really goofed me up. You know what the letters are? They're just examples. They're just a way of writing something with a letter that could represent anything. Here's the thing about letters. If you use an A in one place and you use an A in another place, they're simply things that are the same value. Like if it were a number, if I used a 3 here and I had a 3 here, they'd be the same. If I had an A here and an A here, they're the same. It's not a big deal. So with variables, just ways of writing patterns. So with this one, what we're going to do is, come on pens, be nice. All right, that's what I want. So what you want to do is, we're going to do the exact same thing. Take your blue and put that plus sign in there. And I'm going to keep my negative sign in red. And you got that negative B. That's the rule. It's not a big deal. We don't even really need to use it much. We just need to be aware of it. That an A minus B is exactly the same as an A plus a negative B. If you'll keep that straight, you'll be in good shape, and none of those should really give you any trouble. All right, when solving, be careful to notice if you are, and take your blue and write the word adding. And in this case, one positive and one negative. Or if you're adding two negatives. Now you got to be careful, right? It's two different things. You do them differently, don't you? Adding one negative and one positive, you have to think one way. And adding two negatives, you have to think another way. So just be careful. Think first. Think before you act. Have your parents ever told you that? Think before you act. How many people your parents have told you that before? Should be about all of you. All right. No one's ever told you that before. Think before you act. All right. You've just been told. You got to look in math. You got to think before you act, and you have to think: am I dealing with one positive and one negative number, or am I dealing with two negatives? Because they're done differently. So here's usually what happens. First quiz, which by the way for you guys is Wednesday. First quiz. People tend to struggle a little bit. And the ones that struggle, you know where they struggle? They get confused between adding two negatives or adding one negative and one positive. You don't want to do that. You got to keep them separate. You treat them separately. Two negatives. So many negatives and so many more negatives. Total of that amount of negatives. One positive and one negative. Oh, all of the one with the least wipes out that many of the one with the most. And you got to figure out how many's left of the one with the most. So it's different, right? You do them differently, and you got to keep it straight. So just be careful. Keep it straight. All right? So I want you guys to do number 9. I want you to do A and B. Again, show your work like you did on your worksheets. We're only going to do the work like this one more day, and then we get to the easier way of doing things. So we got one more day or so of training your brain, and then we get to other stuff. So go ahead and solve those. Show your work. So again, think, am I adding one positive and one negative? Am I adding two negatives? And solve both of those, please. So we just got done telling you that 3 negatives and 12 more negatives, right? Said keep the sign with the number. You could have also rewritten B if you wanted to. If you struggle with this kind of problem, then my advice to you is to rewrite that way. And that's clearly 3 negatives and 12 more negatives. So if you struggle with that, then rewrite it. Well, hopefully you get to the point where you look at it and say this is 3 negatives and 12 more negatives, total of 15 negatives, negative 15. And away you go. How many got both correct? See your hands? Okay, way not enough, right? So that means about half of you missed B. And again, because you treated it like one positive and one negative number, or somehow you thought you got a negative 12 and you're subtracting a positive 12 from it, or negative 3 and you're subtracting a positive 12 from it. You know what I say to you? That's what I say. You know what that is the symbol of, right? Do you guys know? Shame on you. Look, don't think subtraction. You're just going to mess yourself up, and you just proved it to yourself. It didn't work. It doesn't work. So you got to recognize that's 3 negatives and 12 more negatives for a total of 15 negatives. Again, I hope you're going to ask questions if I don't explain it enough for you to get it. All right, number 3. Take your red here, write the number 2. 2 negatives in a row equals a. Can somebody raise their hand and tell me what 2 negatives in a row equal? Emily. Are you positive it's positive, or are you negatively saying negative? Negative. Are you positive? I love it. It's great. Kobe, are you positive? Are you sure? How do you know? You remember learning it. All right. And see any clues anywhere to the answer being positive? It is green, yeah, so it's positive because I try to do green and positive and red and negative. All right, here's the bigger question. I'm sure everybody can answer it. Why do 2 negatives equal a positive? Why? Just tell me why. Wrath. What do you mean they cancel the other out? Okay. All right. Brendan, were you going to say anything? Same thing. They cancel each other out. You're pretty close. That's really not bad. Here, let me do a visual illustration. All right. So think of a number line right here, right? Number line. To the right is positive or negative? Positive. To the left is positive or negative? Negative. All right. So let me throw up an example here on the screen. Go ahead and take your black and do a, you've got that, okay. We already have the example. It's up there. I didn't see it. All right. We got negative and negative 5. See that example right there? You don't need to circle it. So we got negative and negative 5. All right. First off, let's go inside the parentheses. So if this is right positive and this is left, a negative 5 wants me to turn this way and go how many paces? 5. What does now this negative sign out front tell me to do? What do negatives tell you to do? Look at the top of your page. Negatives tell you to do what? Adding what? Negatives tell you to go opposite. Let me start off with the negative 5. All right, a 5. Normally a 5 is which direction? Right. But the negative says go the opposite direction, which is? What does this now negative say to do? Go the opposite direction, which is? You end up right. Here, I'll do it in military. So I'm getting ready to go positive 5, but that first negative in front of that 5 says go opposite. But then the other negative out in front says go opposite, and where am I? Right back to going positive. That's what's going on. In Raph's way of thinking, they cancel each other out, which is kind of true. Kristen. Do you have a trick? Well, that's good. You tell me later, and then I'll maybe let you share, but our time is limited. But tell me later, and I'm interested in tricks. I like tricks. All right, let's take a look at this, and let's write out in words what's going on here. Let's take that first negative sign, and we're just going to say the opposite. The opposite of. All right? We did that in red. And I'm going to do it the easy way on this first one. Let's take what's in the parentheses, and would you agree that that's 5 negatives? Yes? So we're going to write out 5 negatives. So if I ask you this, what is the opposite of 5 negatives? You would say the answer is 5 positives, right? Or 5, right? And that's exactly what it is. It's exactly what it is. What's the opposite of 5 negatives? 5 positives. Positive 5. Right? That's exactly what's going on. And you could break it down of a couple different ways if you want. You could say, what's the opposite of 5, if you want to do that. Which again gives you the opposite of 5 negatives. No matter how you look at it, no matter how you shake it, the reality is the opposite of the opposite is a positive. Because, in Raph's way of thinking, they cancel each other out. Which is really true. It's really what happens. Because again, the opposite spins you 180 degrees, but the opposite again spins you right back around. And you're right back to the start. Okay, you know what? Boil all that down to this simplistic thing. Replace two negatives in a row with a plus sign. It's really simple. And it's all we're going to do. It's that easy. Replace two negatives in a row with a plus sign. Now, there are a few things you got to be careful of. And as we go along in our math, we'll get to some of the things that are exceptions. An absolute value is an exception. I think we've talked about that already, haven't we, in this class? Because the absolute value is a wall. You can't take a minus sign inside of an absolute value. It's a little different situation. You can have two negatives in a row. There's another situation when you have a quantity, a binomial, trinomial. You don't even know what that is, and that's okay. You don't need to. We'll get to the exceptions as they come. But in the meantime, it's very simplistic. Two negatives in a row, replace them with a positive sign. That's all you got to do. That's it. Kristen. Say that again in slower, louder language. Oh, okay. So she says this, if you kind of connect the negatives, kind of looks like a positive sign. It's interesting. It's an interesting thought. I usually do this and just put a plus there. And that's what I advise you do. Just cross them out, put a plus in its place. And away we go. Do we need to take very long to solve number one? No. I hope we can all say that 5 plus 7 is 12. And we don't need any kind of work or anything like that, because it's just adding, and we can do that. Adding two positive numbers, we know how to do. Second scenario, same kind of situation, right? Two negatives in a row, cross them out, put a plus in its place. Those two negatives become a plus, right? Because as Raph says, they cancel each other out. Just make sure you put the plus sign in its place. Otherwise, you might be thinking you need to multiply, and you don't want to do that. And we all know 8 and 9 is 17. And I would have used black if I didn't realize I wasn't in black. Now, lest you think you always turn out with an easy addition problem, be careful. Depends on what the original is. So in this situation, number 3, we've got a negative 4 minus a minus 3. But look, how could it be easier? Two negatives become a plus. That's pretty easy. Now we're still trying to train our brain. Again, I got one more day to train your brain, and then I'll show you the shortcut on Thursday. Okay? It's coming Thursday. So how would you do a problem like this? You have one negative and one positive number. Take all of the one with the least, right? Take the same amount of the one with the most. Add them up as opposite numbers, right? Again, once we get our brain trained, we're just looking at that and saying the answer. And some of you can do it already, so hang in there. It won't hurt you to train it a little bit more. You'll just be that much better. Final answer, well, I'm sorry, you got one negative left. Final answer, negative 1, right? We used up 3 of those 4 negatives. We've got 1 left. Final answer, negative 4. Negative 1, excuse me. All right, do number 4. Hopefully you said negative and negative is a positive. Take all of the one with the least, all 9 negatives. Take the same amount of the ones with the most, 9 positives. They always equal 0 because they're opposite numbers. How many of the one with the most we have left? 6 positives. Answer 6. How many got 6? Awesome. Guys are great. Couple more problems, then we'll get some homework. And 2 left. All right, try to do 5 and 6. Be careful. Be careful. Oh, wait. I got 5, 6, 7, and 8. All right, do all 4. 5, 6, 7, and 8. Time's up. That was the buzzer. All right. So let me just go through. This is what you would think, right? Negative and negative is a positive. Negative and negative is a positive. Final answer on that one is 9, right? 7 and 2 is 9. That's all. Nothing more to do to that one. On number 6 to the right, negative and negative is a positive. Okay, now I have one positive and one negative number. Take all of the one with the least. Take the same amount of the one with the most. Those are opposite numbers. They always equal 0. How many of the one with the most do I have left? I used up 4 of them. I have 12 left. Negative 12. How many got number 6 correct? Okay. Let's get down to number 7. Negative and negative is a positive. 14 plus 3 is 17. All right. I mean, that was quick. Not a whole lot of work on that one. Last one. Negative and negative is positive. Oh, I had one negative and one positive number. Take all of the one with the least. Take the same amount of the one with the most. Those are opposite numbers. They always equal 0. How many of the one with the least, one with the most do I have left? 13. And again, listen, we're training our brain. I'm going to show you how to do this in your head on Thursday. No more boxes, none of that. But the exact thing of what's going on. This is what's actually happening. This is how you end up at negative 13. Because negative and negative, stop, don't listen now. Because negative and negative is a positive. And if you have 18 negatives and 5 positives, 5 of these negatives wipe out 5 of those positives. And there's 13 of the negatives left. Answer negative 13. It's exactly what's going on. If we get our brains trained that way, we'll be in great shape. All right, I'm going to quit there, and I'll let you start on your homework.